Hello, and welcome to the study of Richter's atomic universe building block theory. Today we're going to visit the fundamental building block of the universe, the atom. This is a generally accepted view of an oxygen atom. Before we get started, I want to warn you that the Richter atomic universe theory is a new theory, which is not yet scientifically tested, so don't use this information on your exams. In fact, it is a brand new theory being presented to the world within this video. Its basic premise is that the fundamental building block of the universe is the atom. And just like in the world of Mandelbrot theorem, the shape of the atom continues on into infinity, or at least into something that we'll probably never know the answer to. I call it God's puzzle to keep our inquiring minds busy. We are going to skip over the rudimentary mechanics, mostly of chemistry, except to briefly say that our image of atoms are theoretical and mathematical. We can't actually see an atom, but we know that this is how they work because that's just how the math works out. We assume there are rings in atoms or shells, and each extending ring or shell can hold a limited number of electrons. For example, in this oxygen atom, we assume, again because the math works out, that the inner ring can contain only 2 electrons and the outer ring can contain up to 8 electrons. Of course, here we see that the oxygen atom has only 6 electrons in it right now. And so that means, or at least we can presume, again according to the math, that this outer shell can contain 2 additional electrons from other atoms. And in fact, that's what forms the basic water bond, or H2O, where the electrons from 2 additional hydrogen atoms are attracted to the oxygen atom's outer ring to form a single water molecule, or in other words, a combination of the 3 atoms together to form a bonded group called a molecule. The particular bond between hydrogen and oxygen is not very strong, and it can be broken with just a little bit of heat or something like electrical hydrolysis. But let's go back to the oxygen atom. We don't really know if the negative electrons are revolving around the nucleus, which is made up of positive protons and neutrons. Some scientists believe they have captured a video image of an atom and report that the electrons do not appear to be moving and seem static. But it's important to remember that the human nervous and ocular system operate at 60 Hertz. So it would be reasonable to assume that the electrons in this atom are rotating at 60 Hertz also, and therefore the human eye would perceive them as standing still. But it's just a theory. And because we can only visualize the atom mathematically and not actually determine what it looks like, we also cannot assume that the electrons share an exact same orbit or ring/shell. In fact, each electron could be orbiting their nucleus, and each electron could have a slightly different orbit than the others. The math would not be affected by these minor variances. The math, by the way, is based on an electromagnetic theory. Again, the nucleus being considered the powerhouse or positive flow of energy, while the electrons are considered the negative part of the energy flow. We don't know if this is an actual reality or if it's just a simpler way for the human mind to understand the nature of atoms by inserting an electrical basis to them. But the math works out when we do that. In fact, Richter's atomic universe theory is directly in line with the electric universe theory. That's the theory I believe in. And everything seems to have an electromagnetic basis. In fact, the only difference is that the atomic universe theory merely attempts to define the building blocks of the electric universe. So to begin explaining the atomic universe theory, let's change the view of the oxygen atom just a little and give each electron its own orbit. In this view of the oxygen atom, we can now see that each of the electrons is in a slightly different orbit within the oxygen atom's expanse. And now I will unveil Richter's atomic universe building block theory by simply changing the background just a little. Now, imagine, please, you have been miniaturized to something about 1/1,000,000th the size of an atom. And because the nucleus of the atom is now so much larger and so more powerful that it actually emits energy, which can be perceived by your eyes as light. And that's what a nucleus is. It's the energy of an atom. And now imagine you are deep inside this atom. Tiny little self, smaller than one of the electrons. And you can not only see your own atom's nucleus as a huge, bright light of energy, but you can also see the energy from the nuclei of many different and distant atoms that are far away and which are bonded to your atom like hydrogen atoms are bonded to oxygen atoms. You guys share electrons with those distant atoms. And just like the water molecule that we looked at earlier, where 3 atoms were joined together to make a combination or a molecule, your atom, your oxygen atom here, is making a molecule with all those distant atoms that you can see that kind of look like stars. And you make a huge molecule. Okay, and now, because your oxygen atom is so much larger than you yourself are, remember, you're about 1/1,000,000th the size of that atom. You're smaller than one of the electrons. You might even be on the surface of an electron. And those electrons are so big that they're not just tiny little blue balls or something that's represented as tiny little blue balls. They're so big that you can actually see them, and you can see their formations, and you can see their physical surfaces. Now imagine that. And I'm going to change the background one more time, and you'll see what that imagining is. That's right. Our solar system is built on the exact same structure as the atom. And like the Mandelbrot scale, it can get larger and larger and larger, or smaller and smaller and smaller. The atom structure is the building block of the universe. And the sooner we accept this possibility, then the sooner we're going to start studying it and learning more about not just the macro world of the outer universe, but the micro world of the atom as well, because if they are both identical, then the knowledge we learn from both of them can be interchangeable. And I believe that, dear viewers, will be our next scientific jump along our journey. In this theory, the Milky Way galaxy could be considered a large molecule, or an assembly of hundreds of thousands of solar systems that are all bonded together by electrons called planetoids, asteroids, comets, and other bodies of mass that are shared between our solar system and many others that surround us. In fact, NASA has already identified over 400 bodies of mass which are currently in our solar system that are known to be satellite bodies that are actually revolving around other nearby solar systems. Just like the atomic bonding structure, we see our solar systems being bonded identically. Those planetoids, those bodies of mass, are the proverbial electrons that are bonding us together with these nearby solar systems to form our galaxy. And our galaxy could just be a tiny bit of RNA or DNA that was birthed by a much larger galaxy acting as some sort of giant's mitochondrial cell or something. I mean, maybe we're the inner workings of one of God's tissue cells. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. But as I said at the beginning of this video, we will probably never find the true answer, what exists beyond. I'm only certain of one thing, and that is that the universal building block is absolutely the atomic structure. Thank you for joining me. I hope that this was pleasant for you. If you have any comments, please feel free to share them. Thank you.